Hello, everyone, and welcome to PWD Allies podcast. My name is Brent Frain. Is it about double dipping for the mayors in Metro Vancouver? I mean, how much money do they really need to make? I mean, wow. I mean, they make more than the Premier of British Columbia. They actually make even more than the Prime Minister of Canada. I mean, are you kidding me? I mean, and on top of that, they get a stipend. They get a stipend, Neil. I mean, and all the listeners, I mean, for every single meeting they go to. And we're going to pile into all that. Neil's got some numbers here. And yeah, I mean, meanwhile, the local news just came out from BC and across Canada saying that more than half of the population is living like in very dire situations. I mean, below poverty level, pretty much, right? I mean, I know the stats used to always say, $200 less than being able to pay your bills. I say that number is even less than that. I mean, that was some decades ago. They used to use that same line. Now they use the same, status quo going forward. I mean, people are not even living paycheck to paycheck. They're having to figure out how to pay for their rent, cost of living, buy food, pay your bills. I mean, any unexpected expenses coming up. I mean, God forbid. I mean, if you're a person with disabilities, I mean, and you need extra added costs added on, which everybody does. If you're a person with disabilities, you have extra added costs every month. But of course, the BC government and BC here didn't give a rate increase in 2024. Really? Oh, but they gave all the mayors, allowed them to make massive amount, hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
They gave all their employees huge pay raise bumps, but nothing for PWD in BC. Meanwhile,
Yeah.
the cost of living last year in 2024 was already going skyrocket, and the rates are not even tied to cost of living adjustment.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Crazy, crazy times.
The first comment I made, Brent, I realized my mic is muted here. But yeah, so I'll just restate that I have a whole list of notes here with a whole bunch of stats. So I don't know if you want to just kind of just launch into it.
Sure.
Let's get going right away here. So, if you look at the thumbnail for today, I kind of highlighted. There was basically four mayors on the thumbnail that it's highlighted the costs of each. Let's start with Burnaby Mayor Mike Hurley. These numbers are provided by it's something called the Municipal Finance Authority of BC, or otherwise called MFA. So these reports, these financial reports, are provided by the Municipal Finance Authority of BC, MFA. So you have Mike Hurley, his mayor's salary. So he's the mayor of Burnaby. His mayor's salary is $195,000. That's just his base salary is $195,000, and then over and above that, he also sits as a chair on the Metro Vancouver board. So he's the Metro Vancouver board chair. And guess how much that pays, Brent?
$1.
I wish. $109,000 for being a board chair on the Metro Vancouver.
Oh my God.
$109,000. And then he's also the on the TransLink Mayor's Council. And that pays him $32,000, and then he kind of double dips on TransLink because he's also on the TransLink board of directors.
Jeez.
And that pays an additional $42,000.
Wow.
And I just kind of I when I took those numbers, I just rounded them down, right? But anyway, when you add all those numbers up. The 195,000, 109,000, 32,000, and $42,000, you get a grand total salary of $393,000 per year.
Whoa.
$393,000 per year to be the mayor of Burnaby.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, it's just crazy, right? And so let's now go. We're just going to go rapid fire to the next one, where it's got a breakdown. We've got Richmond Mayor Malcolm Brody, and again, this is his 2023 salary. So he received $200,000 as the mayor's salary. That's his base salary is $200,000. Okay, ooh. And then he also gets an additional $45,000 for sitting on the Metro Vancouver board. And again, this Metro Vancouver board, for people that don't know, it's a collection of 41 directors and who represent 21 municipalities. And they're in charge of environmental regulation, financial services, parks management, affordable housing projects, all of that, right? So that's what the Metro Vancouver board does. So anyway, he gets $45,000 for that extra, and then he also sits as the chair, as the chair for Metro Vancouver. So he gets $30,000 for that. He gets $44,000 for benefits and expenses. And he also gets an additional $40,000 from TransLink. So the grand total for Mr. Malcolm Brody, and again, this is the Richmond Mayor Malcolm Brody. His grand total is $362,000.
Oh, that's sickening too.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? So again, let's just keep going down the list. We got Delta Mayor George Harvey. Now, I don't have a breakdown of all his expenses, but his total salary, I'm sure his base salary is somewhere in the neighborhood of $200,000. As that seems to be ballpark for base salary for a lot of mayors is $200,000. But if you factor in all of his expenses, all of his extra things of sitting on boards and things like that, his actual take-home salary, annual salary, is $347,000.
That's sickening too.
Yeah, and then we have Port of Coquitlam Mayor Brad West. Mm-hmm. He also gets $347,000.
Sickening.
And
way too much.
Yeah, I have to say we have Vancouver Mayor Ken Sim, mm-hmm. and I have to say that I actually really like Ken Sim. Like whenever I've seen him, he's actually one of the better mayors that we've had, I think. If you go back in his history and look at all the mayors that Vancouver has had, they haven't been very good, right? I would say that he's been one of the better ones. He's actually been on record saying that there has to be more oversight. The only number I can pull up on him is his base salary, and his base salary as Vancouver mayor is $210,000, and actually $210 and $444. I like the triple four. Yeah. I like the triple four at the end. I don't know. I like triple numbers. It might be his thing too. He likes triple numbers. Anyways, so it's $210,000 and then the 444 at the end there. So it's kind of cool.
Probably his salary is probably up near the 300s over.
It could be. It could be the extra stuff. Who knows?
Why not?
But then, what else I wanted to mention too is it's not just the mayor's salary that is kind of out of control. There's also things like the Richmond Oval CEO, like you remember the Richmond Oval that was used for the 2010 Olympics in Vancouver. The Richmond Oval, for people that don't know, it had an ice surface for the ice speed skating, and it also had a surface for the I think it was for the bikes, right? For the speed bikes around the circuit. So this Richmond Oval, he's the CEO of it. It's George Duncan, and this is his 2023 salary. I think he's got a severance package now because I don't think he's actually the CEO anymore. So he got a severance package as well. I think it was in 2023. But his base salary, get this, his base salary is $345,000 and a triple sevens at the end. So 345 777.
Wow.
So almost $346,000. That's his base salary, and then in benefits, in benefits he got $57,000, and then for extra expenses he got $12,000, for a grand total of $415,000.
Oh, wow.
$415,000, and just think, Brent, this is to manage a frickin' ice rink.
Yeah. One person
to manage a frickin' ice rink. You get $415,000 a year.
Oh man, there needs to be accountability when it comes to all these boards of directors and sitting on all these other boards. And I mean, wow. I mean, they're paid more than what a person with disabilities in BC gets paid. Way more than in 1 year. Yeah. I mean, their amount that they get paid on one of their boards is more than basically what they get in 1 year. And no wonder the BC government, we don't have any money. Well, you don't have any money to give a rate increase. Well, I can tell you that there's a huge problem here. Yeah. That needs to be accountability of looking at holding the mayors accountable on all the boards that they're sitting on. I mean, I'm not saying that they shouldn't be getting what they get for their salary. I mean, yes, it's definitely a little bit high, especially higher than their base salary is more than what an MLA gets. And MLAs in BC, they don't get paid to go to all these different board meetings. And, they have to just kind of live within their means, shall we say, of all the boards that they go to. They get a base salary. And a lot of them, they start at $109,000 a year. Mm-hmm. Those are just some of the rookie MLAs. Yeah. But of course, once they get into different cabinet positions, then they get a bump up. And of course, they got $60,000 just recently, every single one of them. Yeah. But I mean, it comes down to accountability. And really what it happens, Neo, is it starts from the top. It's a trickle down effect. So the province had that arm off of them where there was a board that actually was dismantled apparently 2 years ago.
It was 2 years ago? Yeah.
Yeah, it was 2 years ago. And it was actually about accountability that actually would give oversight of saying what's going on here. Yeah. It was shut down. I don't know why it was shut down. They need to be bringing that back.
That's the thing is I tried to do research on that. I wasn't quite sure when that started. So I thought it started actually further back, but I'm glad you
Global News
pointed that out. It was
had
2
brought
years
that
ago.
up in one of their news articles. They were talking about that one night, and I was listening carefully. Yeah, so it was 2 years ago that was shut down. Needs to be brought back.
So that's under David Eby's watch then.
Yeah, that's right.
Let's make that clear. Under David Eby's watch, he dismantled an oversight. On city government. Okay. So I was going to talk about work days and meetings, but since you mentioned David Eby, I wanted to scroll down on my list here. We have the Honorable Ravi Kahlon. He's the Minister of Housing and Municipal Affairs now, right? Mm-hmm. And so as minister. I just wanted to lay out a couple things about that's unique about BC. And again, I didn't know. I just wanted to put forward a disclaimer. All of the stuff that I have notes on. I don't pretend to be an expert on everything, right? I just research. I just research the stuff and put it down. So I'm not pretending to be an expert. So that's my disclaimer. But having said that. I did find out that apparently BC is the only province in Canada that does not require local governments to have a code of conduct. Oh. So BC is the only province in all of Canada that does not require a code of conduct for local governments. And so what that means is it's a set of rules for elected officials in the way they agree to act and govern, along with consequences for non-compliance and even reprimands of docked pay and things like that. So there's nothing like that. There's no code of conduct in BC. And like you were saying, David Eby dismantled kind of that watchdog oversight 2 years ago. And so I just wanted to say that, again, going back a bit into history, you have before 1998, you had the Municipal Act. It was called the Municipal Act, and that was the main source of legislative authority for municipalities and regional districts. And then after 1998, you had something called the British Columbia Local Government Act, or the LGA, and that governs municipalities and regional districts. But then it says, but the community charter, there's something called the community charter, removed many of the LGA's municipal provisions in 2004. So that's kind of when I guess the slippery slope started. But as you said, David Eby removed more checks and balances a couple of years ago, right? So again, getting back to David Eby, you have Ravi Kahlon saying, well, yeah, obviously this is a problem. The cities need more oversight. Meanwhile, the provincial government's the one that got rid of the oversight, right? So I just wanted to, here's the quote from David Eby, okay? This is a direct quote from David Eby. He says, it's disappointing to be disappointed yet again by Metro Vancouver. So he's talking about the Metro Vancouver board, so the conglomerate of all the mayors, right? Yeah. So he says it's disappointing to be disappointed yet again by Metro Vancouver. So it's kind of like the pot calling the kettle black, though, isn't it? Yeah. That he can say that quote with a straight face, knowing
the one who dismantled.
He's the one that dismantled the oversight. He's the one that dismantled the oversight to begin with. Wow. And he's saying, it's so disappointing to be disappointed again by the Metro Vancouver. So it's just.
It's disappointing
kind of
that the arm off of there to hold them accountable is disappointing. That was canceled, because now that's disappointing, because now there's no accountability.
Yeah.
So now disappointing.
Yeah. So I wanted to switch gears, go back. I was going to talk about work days.
Yes.
The actual work days. Okay. So, and the reason I just said a disclaimer a moment ago about saying that I'm not an expert on things, and that's true. But I will say that I am a bit of an expert on the way government works, and because I actually was a provincial public servant for 7 years. I did 4.5 years as a provincial public servant in the Ministry of. I started in the Ministry of Environment. That was back in I think it was 94, 95. Was it 94, 95? Or 95, 96 when I started? I forget. It's so long ago, Brent, I kind of forget. Yeah. I think it was not 95, 96, somewhere around there. Yeah. And I did like 4.5 years there. And then I did 2.5 years with the Ministry of Transportation. I did 2.5 years there. And then I was let go. Again, I've talked about it before, when Gordon Campbell took over, he did a slash and burn of all the ministries, and he basically just turfed everybody. And I was one of the people that he turfed. Yeah.
That was right around the time they were doing mass cutbacks across every single ministry, including PWD, and be assessed and see if they're still disabled. Are you still disabled? Nothing's changed.
So when I talk about work days,
It's just got worse.
The days that civic, that the city mayors work, I kind of know something about that because, like I said, I was a public employee for the provincial government for 7 years, so I kind of know how all that works, right? So let's start with the idea that you have 3 weeks of paid holiday is pretty standard, I would think, for these senior people. Like I'm saying that's probably minimum, right? They probably get 3 weeks minimum would be the standard. So if you take 3 weeks off paid holiday, you're down to 49 weeks where they're actually earning a salary. Except so that if you take 49 weeks, that works out to 245 days. Okay, 49 weeks works out to 245 days. Except you also have to minus an additional 2 weeks of stat holidays,
Right.
of paid stat holidays. So that 245 days with the stat holidays minus becomes 230 days. Okay, so that's 230 work days, and then there's a third component which again I'm aware of because I was part of the system. Remember, there's something called flex days. Where every 2 weeks you get a flex day as a public employee. You get a flex day because what they would do is you would work an extra, like I think it's half an hour or 45 minutes extra every day for the 2 weeks, and so every 2 weeks you get 1 day off because you worked an extra like half an hour or 45 minutes or something like that. So you'd end up banking an extra day off every 2 weeks.
Oh.
So if you think about that, that works out to 26 days, except you'd have to minus the days you'd already get off for the stats and your paid holidays. So then that 26 days works out to about 22 days. So you take 22 days away from the 230. We're down to 230 days. Remember?
Oh, yeah.
So you minus 22 days from 230, and you're down to 208 days. So they're down to 208 days they actually work. Okay.
Yeah.
So again, we've already talked about base salary. All these mayors are getting a base salary of $200,000. That's their base salary, right? So again, if you're only working 208 days maximum,
Yeah.
that's basically they're getting $1,000 per day as a base salary. That's just without all the extras they're
All
getting.
the other perks. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's $1,000 per day every day that they work, $1,000. Okay, but then we get to you kind of alluded to that, Brent. Then you get to the whole meetings thing. They get extra money for meetings that they attend, and I'll just tell you, like again, in the 7 years that I worked as a public servant for the provincial government, I never once got extra money for attending a meeting.
Nope.
The only attending meetings was considered part of your job. So again, I think my base salary at the end, when I was working as a data management tech for the Ministry of Environment, my base salary back in year 2000, 2001, 2002, my base salary was $65,000. That was back in year 2000. I was getting $65,000 a year as a data management tech. And I can tell you, I never earned extra money for attending a meeting. That was just part of my job. Was to attend a meeting. And the only exception to that would be, of course, if I had to attend a meeting over in Victoria, because my office was actually in Burnaby. It was kind of on the Burnaby New West border. That was where the office was.
Yeah.
And there was a time where I had to go over to Victoria to attend attend a headquarters meeting over there. And of course, when you do that, then you submit an expense account for that because they don't expect you to pay for the ferry. I mean,
Oh, God forbid.
yeah. So you get to fill out an expense for that. Okay, we'll pay for your fare. We'll pay for your food over there. We'll pay for the hotel overnight. Of course, that makes sense, right? Because you're accruing extra cost just to attend a meeting that your company or that the ministry wants you to attend. So that's a cost over and above that I shouldn't have to be accountable for. So that part makes sense. But the idea that these guys, these these mayors can start charging money for meetings is kind of bananas to me, because like I said, in my 7 years as a public servant, I never once got extra money for just attending a local meeting.
Yeah, when I worked for the Ministry of Advanced Education and Technology, I mean, way back in the day, I mean, there was some meetings I had to go to, and sitting on this in the boardroom. I mean, they had like 3 different boardrooms, but for different meetings. I never got paid. I mean, yeah, there was some cookies out there, and there were some muffins and coffee, tea, and some other pastries if you want. I saw the cookies, a couple of cookies and a cup of coffee. That was it for me. Oh, help yourself. I go, no, leave it for other people. Oh, no, it's on, you have whatever you want. And I didn't get paid for it. I mean, when I left, my income, my base salary or wage was $12.04. I mean, and they basically had given me a bump up to try to encourage me to stay, but I moved on to other things. And of course, then my job became obsolete anyway. Technology changed everything. But accountability, like I had too many breaks. There was way too many breaks. They told me I had to have four 15-minute breaks. I had to have an hour for lunch. It was like way too much. I said, no, I just want to get the job done. That's why I'm here. Well, no, you need to take the breaks. And I argued, and I said, no, that's a waste of money.
Yeah.
And, as time went on, fast forward, I got to learn a lot about that, sitting under an executive, seeing all the wasteful money. I mean, wow. I mean, we went on for the, what was it now, Forward, to Forward BC for the government before they got in. And I mean, I learned a lot, but I was sitting, as a chair, and, I got to oversight of under my committee of making things happen. For me, I was the chair. I actually had got Sonia as my co-chair. Technically, it wasn't a position, but I actually said, well, can I have a co-chair to actually help me? And the reason why I asked for help is because the small print, and be able to read the small print, because everyone got a copy of the material that we all had to read around. Well, I was having trouble reading the small print, so Sonia was helping me a little bit. And then there was a day where she was reading from some other notes, so I had one of my other committee people helping me with some stuff. And I said, no, you go ahead, you can speak on my behalf. And so I'm speaking, can I go ahead and speak on Brent's behalf? Sure. Anyway, about how to allocate money. We didn't get paid. It was, we didn't get paid for it. But sitting around and passing a resolution regarding having complimentary tea and coffee and cookies. I decided that I wanted to change it up because to get more bang for the buck. Well, arguments. I mean, really, no, it's always been this way. I actually didn't manage. At the end of the day, I actually managed to change it to the advantage of everybody, because it actually saved the constituent a lot of money. Also, going forward is the travel cost. Well, I mean, we wanted to pay for a plane ticket there and back and pay for all the accommodations. Well, we took the Greyhound. When they had Gold Greyhound back then, we took the Greyhound up to the Okanagan. We actually, no, hang on, sorry. We actually got a ride. We got a ride up to the Okanagan. We took a Greyhound from that point on to where Forward was. Well, and we had to submit in receipts. Keep the receipts. You're going to get reimbursed. We actually took the Greyhound back down to Langley, and we stayed the night. Why not? I mean, we had to check out the old hood where I grew up, and we had a great time. And we took a taxi all the way from Langley all the way to Vancouver. There was a roadblock, and the taxi driver said, "Oh, I'm sorry, a little bit of congestion. I hope you're okay." Oh, that's okay. I mean, there's not much you can do. So we took a detour, but I was being responsible with the money, getting more bang for the buck. Because if I would have taken a plane all the way, it would have cost a lot more. we actually came back. We took a float plane from Vancouver, North Vancouver, all the way to Nanaimo at the time,
Yeah.
and to meet a barbecue event in time to the now mayor. He's the mayor of Nanaimo, but he was the MLA for Nanaimo at the time. But we made it back in plenty of time, and because I was so dedicated to that, I had to get there on time. But we came back with I came back with almost $800. Sonia came back with, how much did you come back with, Sonia? I think it was, oh geez, 700 and something dollars. We came back with like almost $1,500 on it.
Yeah. Wow.
And they're like, "How'd you do that?" But then they gave me heck, you people. I mean, all the listeners, they gave me heck, saying, "Why did you guys waste money on a Greyhound? Why did you waste money on a taxi?" Well, it would have cost more by taking a plane now.
Yeah.
But I came back. I said, "But look, we came back with money." Wow. So I guess being, living with a disability all my life, born with a disability, living a very low income, now living in abject poverty. You've been responsible for your dollars. I mean, making a dollar stretch further.
Well, I mean,
makes a difference.
before I went on disability, because again, people that know my story know that I only went on disability after my son turned 1. So, that's about he's 16 now, so it's been about 15 years, right? Mm-hmm. Prior to that, I was always making a pretty good salary, but I always had respect for the value of what money was, right?
Yeah.
And I have a very similar story to you. Is when I remember when I did my first trip over to the head office in Victoria for the Ministry of Transportation. Mm-hmm. So again, that was back in 2001, I guess. I went over there, and so that was back when the walk-on I would take the public transit there. So at the time I had a bus pass that I already paid for. So I didn't charge that out because I was just using my own bus pass. It was already paid for, and so I took the bus to the terminal, and then I did a walk-on. And at that time, walk-ons for the ferry was $7. Mm-hmm. $7, and then so that was times 2, so it was like there and back. So $14 for a there and back trip, and then I did.
Now it's 20 almost.
Yeah, and I did. I spent $20 on the Pacific buffet. Remember, they had the Pacific buffet where you could.
That was great.
It was great food, and it was like all you could eat. You could eat, like almost like five-star cuisine quality food, right? Like you had like things like Pacific salmon and I don't know, like roast potatoes and vegetables and all kinds of desserts, and you got the whole.
The desserts were the best part.
Oh, I know, and you have your fill of them, and again, this is for like $20. So again, and then I had, of course, I did an overnight hotel stay, and I think at that time the hotel stay was like, I think $100. So like all in, it was $100 for the hotel, $20 for my food, and $14 for the ferry. So I think all in I was like $140 or something, and they're like, "Is that it? Is that all you spent?" And I'm like, "Yeah,"
Yeah.
But I just wanted to finish off. We were talking about meetings and what they charge for meetings. So let's go back to what they charge for meetings here, Brent. I have to go back to my list here. And remember, we were saying like most people, like back in the day when I was a public servant, I didn't get paid extra for a meeting. That was part of my job. I went to the meeting. But now, again, because there's no oversight now. There's no provincial oversight of these city governments.
Yeah, zero oversight.
Zero oversight now. Thanks again to David Eby. He got rid of all that 2 years ago. So anyway, so how it works for the meetings is that they're compensated if they attend a 1 hour meeting. For every hour of meeting, they get $547. So if they sit in on one meeting, it's $547 if it's a 1 hour meeting. If they sit in on three meetings, it's 547 times three, of course. And then if the meeting runs up to 4 hours, if the meeting runs up to 4 hours, it gets capped. It gets capped at $1,094. And this is across the board for all Metro Vancouver mayors. It's the rule. The rule is the same. So if you attend a 1 hour meeting, it's $547 per 1 hour meeting. And then if you attend something that's like 4 hours, up to 4 hours, it gets capped at $1,094 for a meeting. For a meeting.
Stipend there.
Yeah, and let's remember, like I already said, that all of these mayors work roughly 200 work days. I already did the math for the 200 work days, right? And they get their base salaries is about $200,000 for base salary, right?
See, they're not even getting enough already. I mean, some of them are almost $400,000.
So as a base salary per day, they're already getting $1,000 already as a base. And then if they just attend a meeting for 4 hours, they're getting an additional over $1,000, almost $1,100 to attend a 4 hour meeting.
Yeah, but here's the icing on the cake, though, Neil, is all the meetings. There was a recent meeting that they went to discuss the inequalities.
Yeah.
And when I heard the news, I was almost ready to vomit. I literally I almost spilt my coffee when I heard this. They actually get a bonus just to attend it, and they get a complimentary pricey breakfast of a continental breakfast.
Yeah.
I mean, really? I mean, wow.
Yeah. So the video you're referring to, you showed it to me.
Yeah.
It basically says so they had a meeting. All these mayors had a meeting. So again, it's the Metro Vancouver board. It's called the Metro Vancouver board of all these mayors. They all got together, and it basically it was a meeting to look at the cost savings that they could do for all of the taxpayer money, right? It's like, let's look at how to save taxpayer money. But this meeting about how to save money ended up costing the taxpayer $20,000.
Yeah, and you know what?
For one meeting, it cost $20,000.
You know what came out of that meeting, everyone? Nothing.
Yeah.
All it is now they're going to defer it over to a study and come back from the staff to basically tell them maybe areas that they can maybe try to save some money. Then the amount of money that they're going to save on it is peanuts. They're not even going to save the amount of money. You know what the core of the problem is actually all these boards that they're sitting on. You're getting paid all this. I mean, some of the mayors TransLink. I mean, and TransLink then says, well, we have no money. They want to contact bus service because they don't know where to get the money from. Well, I know where the problem is. There was a bus driver, when they had the bus driver strike, there was one of the operators had told me that all the CEOs at the top, all the other bureaucratic people underneath, that's where all the money's going. They said billions of dollars is getting flushed. Meanwhile, you got people living in legislative poverty in BC that can't figure out how to pay their rent, how to basically buy food. Go to a food bank. Oh yeah, that's going to give you all your nutritional food that you need. How do you pay your bills? How about tenant insurance? Unexpected expenses, living with a disability. I mean, there needs to be accountability all across the board when it comes to the local mayors and like some of the councillors are speaking up. I mean, their hands are tied.
Yeah. And like I said, Ken Sim is the Vancouver mayor, and actually, from what I've seen of him, I really respect him a lot. He's one of them that's actually coming forward and saying, yes, there does need to be more oversight. So, hats off to him. But it is kind of ironic. It's kind of ironic that, like we said, we had this meeting of Metro Vancouver board, and they just wasted $20,000 of taxpayer money on how for a meeting on how to save money. They just spent $20,000, and the only thing that came out of the meeting is let's have more meetings.
Yeah,
that's the only thing that came out of the meeting is let's have more meetings. So they're going to have another $20,000 meeting, or maybe another one and another one.
Yeah,
right?
To figure out where can they save more money.
Yeah.
It costs more money to go.
Meanwhile, they're like all these $20,000 meetings for these for this Metro Vancouver board.
You look at the wastewater plant too. I mean, that's costing. Yeah. I mean, the cost overrun into the billions and billions of dollars, where it was only originally $700,000 or something dollars, and then it ballooned up to like $5 billion or $6 billion. Now the taxpayers have to pay for that on top of all this.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, people are struggling. I mean, seniors trying to figure out, their next meal, how to pay their rent. If and a lot of them. Have subsidized rent, but there's some who don't. Or if they do have it, what if their household members had to move in with them?
Well, most PWD do not get any subsidy at all.
No, they get zero subsidies in market housing.
I think it's. I've seen Jeff post that it's about 23% that get subsidized. Now maybe his number is more correct. Now I've always quoted the 12%, and the reason I quote 12% is I've always heard that when the ministry talks about subsidized rents, they talk about 25% get subsidies, and they usually talk about the whole of welfare. Mm-hmm. They're not talking about they're not just talking about PWD.
Right.
They're talking about the entire umbrella of welfare, which includes not just PWD, right? So PWD accounts for like half of welfare, right? And the other half is, other, regular, non-disabled, or whatever I want to say.
Yeah.
So that's where I get my 12% from, is because I'm thinking I've seen the number of 25% for overall. Mm-hmm. That 25% overall are getting the subsidy. So I'm thinking, well, if it's 25% overall, you half it. Thinking, well, only half are PWD. So if you take half of 25%, you end up with 12 to 13% are actually getting subsidies now.
But then you get seniors in there too, though. Like
So it's kind of, these numbers aren't very easy to come by. So
no, I know.
So I realize that I'm kind of I'm only doing my best to come up with a.
You're going numbers that and same as me. Like I'll give out information based on my knowledge. Yeah. And if there's more information that people do know of updated stat numbers, like please let us know so we can inform the general public of current information. Yeah. We're going with just stat numbers that the government has put out there for the public to see. It's like an FOI. When reporters are trying to do different news stories, like say why did the Ministry of Social Development and Poverty Reduction in BC, just for instance, why did they not give it a rate increase? Mm-hmm. Well, there's an FOI. So they now pay to play and get that information and then hope that it's not redacted out.
And you know what, Brent? That used to be one of my jobs when I worked for the Ministry of Environment. I did a lot of those FOI requests, actually. That was one of my big jobs. I would get an FOI request across my desk, and then it was like, Neil, put this together. So I was like busy like crossing things out, like putting like pen marks on things so he couldn't read it or whatever. So that was one of my jobs, was to do FOI requests that came in across my desk.
One time it was free. Now they have to pay.
Now they have to pay. And
again, that needs to be changed too.
Yeah.
Like there's so many things that need to be changed back and make things better for news reporting and just for people to get that accurate information for advocacy wise.
Yeah,
I
because
mean,
you just really don't know the numbers, right? And like I said,
yeah,
for me, I think it's around 12 to 13%. But according to Jeff, numbers says 23%. Now, I don't know. I'm just because
yeah,
I think we're both like Jeff and I both are just basically going by numbers that we've come across.
yeah,
But these numbers are so hard to come by because they're not publicly available. You're just kind of going by numbers that are just kind of out there and making your best guess, right? So I've made my best guess. I'm assuming it's around 13%. Jeff is assuming it's around 23%. Whichever the case is,
maybe.
it still sucks.
Yeah, that's
It's
extremely,
even
extremely
even
bad.
even if you take the high number of 23%, it still means that, there, what's that work out to? 77%. Is that right? 77% are not getting any subsidy at all.
Well, you
And
know
that
that here.
sucks. That
Well, I
sucks.
mean, the frustrating part is, I mean, there's a place close by where we live, and I mean, we could have it just like that. I mean, the management company says you want it, you can have it, but you're gonna have to pay this high price. Again, I was joking with our manager. I said, "Well, the government only gives $500 now. They upped it in 2023, an extra $125 to some PWD." She goes, "What do you mean some?" I go, "Well, the ones who have subsidized housing, they don't get it." She goes, "Well, their cost of living went up." I go, "Yeah, so did ours." She goes, "Why didn't they give it to all?" I said, "Because it's called exclusion. It's called divide. It's called divide PWD
Yeah.
against each other, right?" And I said,
Disabled
"That's
versus
that divide.
disabled.
Yeah,
Disabled
that has to
versus disabled.
stop."
Yeah.
And she goes, where are you going to rent for $500? I go, "You can't. Nowhere in Canada you can rent for $500."
Yeah.
Again, like the government has done a complete misstep on that. They had the opportunity in 2023 to raise the rates up to no less than poverty level. In 2024, no increase at all. Cost of living had gone up. I mean, it was all over the news media everywhere. Cost of living going up. People are suffering. Now they're even suffering even more this year.
Yeah.
My guess is that if I had a crystal ball, and I said this before on the other podcast before, is if I had a crystal ball and the government prove me wrong, this year I think they're going to give a $0 increase again to PWD and BC. They're going to use it as an economic uncertainty due to the ongoing crisis of the tariffs that the president of the United States, Donald Trump, who wants to impose on Canada. Really? I mean, Canada should have been prepared for this.
Yeah.
Right. And when I say prepared, I always say be proactive. Is that what you do is you take care of the citizens beforehand before it becomes a crisis. So PWD last year in 2024, you should have at least raised the rates up enough to cover any kind of inflation or tied the rates to inflation, cost of living adjustment, COLA.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, at the most minimum. So when you get a rent increase at, say, last year was 3.5% on rent and market rent. This year in 2025, it's 3%. But last year, there was no increase.
Yeah.
So I had to cut back. I mean, every PWD had to cut back on something. So where do you cut back? Your communications, cell phone or food, bills, somewhere along the line. I mean, it has to come out of somewhere. And this year I look at the same thing. I think, okay, where do I cut back again?
Yeah.
I mean, what do? You renegotiate with your service provider, say TV. They would love it if you renegotiate it. Why? Because now they can lock you into another service agreement.
Yeah.
And if your rates are still high, well, you can't get out of it. So now if you get no increase the next year, what do you cut back on? Well, now you have to cancel your service. Well, again, it's about taking care of the most, as the government would call it, most vulnerable. I say taking care of PWD, taking care of seniors, taking care of low-income individuals that are, I mean, people who are working at 4 or 5 jobs that aren't disabled, or if they are disabled, I mean, what happens if you lose one of those jobs? If you're an MLA or you're a mayor or city councilor, you're well taken care of, right? No problem there.
Yeah.
But if you're a PWD and you're struggling, you lose one part of your income. You are messed up really bad. And to me, it's heartbreaking where I say I look at housing, and I mean, housing should not be treated as a commodity. People just want a place to live. And I mean, it shouldn't be all about profit. I mean, massive profit. When I look at a place, it's heartbreaking for me because I say, well, I want to live at this other place. I mean, it's quieter, it's nicer. but I'm not allowed to have it. I can look at it and say, well, that's nice. That's great. I mean, you can call it pink unicorn, a whole bunch of pink unicorns everywhere behind me. I can decorate a pink unicorns. Well,
you know what, Brent, you actually did a good transition there, because as a sneak peek for the next show we're going to have on Monday.
Yep.
Remember the last time that Cheryl was on,
yep.
she talked about, I mean, there's been other politicians that have come on, maybe Mike Morris being one, and Sonia Furstenau being another. I remember they've both talked about this too, but when we had Cheryl on, one of the comments she made on the podcast, on the last podcast, was that housing is a human right. Mm-hmm. That's what she said. So Cheryl has said that. I know Mike Morris has been on record as saying that. I know that Sonia Furstenau has been on record as saying that housing is a human right. Right. So yeah. on Monday's on the next show, we're actually going to have Jeff Leggett and Tom Poxon join us, and the discussion is going to be God versus government. Who is responsible for human rights? And I hope people tune in, because it's not like, I don't want it to be like, I don't really want it to be a Sunday sermon. No. But I think it's important. Be a good show. I think it's important to look at, like, where does the idea of human rights come from? Is it really the responsibility of government, or is it something bigger than that? Mm-hmm. And by bigger than that, I would propose, God is the standard by which human rights should be measured, and so we'll get into that, but that's kind of a teaser for Monday.
Yeah, there was a guest that we had on way back, actually, when the show was actually originally on Twitter Spaces, and I'd love to get the guest back on again, just to kind of see what has changed in housing from then to now. Mm-hmm. Lalani Farha we had on, and she was the special rapporteur for housing. I highly recommend people to go and check out the documentary. Lalani was the lead person in the documentary. Mm-hmm. It's called Push the Film. It's called Push the Film. Mm-hmm. And it's really, really good. It's an eye-opener. It really lets you know what is going on in the housing market. Who are corporate landlords? Who are they? Like, just a little sneak peek on it. She talks about it, and she talked to real people with real lived experience, what they went through, and the heartbreaking situations that people had to go through. And going fast forward, I mean, it's got worse. Frederick Gurton is the director of the of that documentary. So I'd love to actually get both of them on. That would be so cool, just to kind of see where things are at. Lalani always tells me to keep up the advocacy on it, keep pushing forward. Yeah. I stay in contact with her on these things. So Lalani, thanks. And I try to push out the that documentary when I can, every so often. And I don't want to, flood people's news feeds with that stuff. But it is a very good documentary. Also, I recommend another documentary if people are interested. Look back at, there was another one about the housing crash in 2008.
Right.
That was in the U.S. The U.S. took a real brunt on that housing crash. Canada.
Moneyball. That's a great movie. Moneyball.
And the name of that, Sonia, is? Oh, refresher, Sonia. No, the 2008 housing crash.
Big Short.
The Big Short.
The Big Short. What am I thinking?
Big Short.
Why did I think of Moneyball?
It's called The Big Short.
Moneyball was the baseball one. That's right.
Yeah.
Big Short. I get those two titles mixed up, but you're right.
Yeah.
Big Short.
No, it's all good. I love watching that whenever so often. It kind of puts things into perspective. There was a part in there that really stood out to me, that one of the people in The Big Short in the documentary basically said, who is to blame? Is it the poor people? Is it the immigrants? People blame government. They say, "Oh, it's government's fault." And really, like you really need to watch so The Big Short and go back and watch Push the Film. Both of those, I think Canada needs to come out with one here too, because I think things are going to change. And I'm not trying to fearmonger or put things into a bad spiral situation. I always say, just watch your dollar, stretch your dollar as far as you can, get the most value for your dollar. My mom taught me that way back when, God rest her soul, but she predicted that this is happening now and we are going through it. To what degree, I don't know. But yes, she went through the dirty 30s, and it wasn't good. So I think it's going to be an eye opener. I think government needs to now take care of their citizens. I still think that a standard of income, whatever it may be, it needs to be in place. Governments, provincial, you need to be held accountable. Okay, this is your driveway. Like, you need to now take care of your citizens, up the income. Okay, you can give it to all the MLAs and all the city councilors and all your staff and all your MLAs, all the public servants. You need to get everybody up to a standard of income so that everyone can now put that money back into the economy. You always say to support your local businesses. Well, how do you support local businesses if that all your money is going to your corporate landlords?
Yeah.
And I mean, really, like they always say, well, build more subsidized housing. Great. But what if you're living in market housing and you're happy, you're fine where you are, you don't want to move, right? Maybe you love your building, you love your community. You just have to up the income. I mean, my manager keeps every so often says, so did the premier ever answer your question, Brent, about why didn't you get a rate increase? No.
Yeah.
So again, that's the question that kind of gets pushed forward every so often. And I just want the answer is like, why are you not increasing our income? At least do the minimum, the most minimum, tie it to COLA, cost of living. Alberta had done it and Ontario did it.
Yeah, like BC here, we don't have things tied to the rate of inflation, and it really should be.
It should be automatic. Like every April, all the public servants, they get a rate increase.
Yeah.
And I know that a lot of the unions are going to be up for contract renewals this spring. It's going to get interesting, and the government says they got no money. So, it's going to be interesting. But anyway, thank you. I want to thank everyone.
Yeah, just before you end the show, I actually wanted to end the show on a little bit of a mic drop, actually, Brent.
Oh, sure.
Because there is one bit of data that I haven't shared yet, and so this will be kind of like I said, the mic drop. Let's refresh people's memories again. At the start of the show, we said that Burnaby Mayor Mike Hurley was his total salary was $393,000 by the time you get all the benefits paid out. It was $393,000 to basically attend 200 work days in the year. Okay, and then you get and then the other example. One other example was the CEO of Richmond Oval, George Duncan. Based in 2023 stat, he was paid a total salary of $415,000. Okay, and again, this was to manage an ice rink. This is basically right to manage an ice rink. He got paid
pretty icy
$415,000. Okay, so here's my mic drop moment here now. Okay, Premier David Eby. His base salary used to be before he paid everybody off the bonuses. His base salary used to be $107,000. It was $107 and then $579. So $107,000. And now with all this top up money he's giving everybody, with the top up, his salary has gone from $107,000 all the way up to $227,000. Okay, and you think, well, that's great, but again, think of this again. You have David Eby getting $227,000, and you get a CEO of an ice rink
Yeah.
getting $415,000. You know,
Yeah. Yeah. Plus, what I was saying at the very
Yeah.
beginning of the podcast is that some of these MLAs are getting more than what the premier gets, and some of them are getting more than that what the prime minister gets of Canada.
And well, hey, that was going to be in the next part of my part B of my mic drop, Brent.
Yeah.
Is that the Prime Minister Trudeau, his base salary was $203,000. That's his base salary, was $203,000. Now he just got. This is considered a top up.
Oh.
Okay, this is a top up. This is funny.
Yeah.
I keep saying top up because this is funny. The top up is $203,000. So now his full salary is doubled because his base salary was 203. His top up is 203. So his full salary is $406,000. Okay, so $406,000 because his top up is $203,000.
I should want to vomit.
And let's compare that. Let's compare that to the President of the United States.
Oh, yes.
The President of the United States base salary. So his base salary is $400,000 for the President of the United States, and then he's got an expenditure. Add an expenditure of maybe at the maximum a maximum of $50,000. So his maximum. The President of the United States maximum salary is $450,000. So again, let's think of this. You have the President of the United States of a whole entire country, of a sovereign nation getting a maximum of $400,000, and then let's go back again to the Richmond Oval CEO, who got a max salary of $415,000 to manage a frickin' ice rink.
Yeah, yeah.
So there again, there's my mic drop. Boom.
Yeah,
you know.
And meanwhile, people with disabilities in BC on provincial disability assistance get a maximum of $17,802. Then that is supposed to include their rent, their cost of living, bills, food.
Everything.
Everything.
All in. Yeah.
Wow. Not even $20,000.
Yeah.
Well, there we go, folks.
So Brent, if you and I could be co-managers of the Richmond Oval ice rink.
Oh yeah.
We could split it, and we could both get. So that would be what? That would be $207,000 each.
My gosh.
Because it would be $207,000 each. We could get as co-managers of the Richmond Oval ice rink.
Yeah, or if we got stipends just for having a meeting. I mean, imagine. Do a podcast. There we would get
4-hour meeting. We get $1,100.
Yeah, but even 1 hour. Automatically getting that. Geez, there's something wrong here. But over $200,000. Wow. $400,000. Geez, look how much I could hand back to the disabled people asking for help because the government can't take care of their own citizens. Divvy it up, folks. Divvy it up. There's a problem here, definitely in society where we can't even take care of our own citizens, but we can take care of our politicians, no problem. Mm-hmm. But not even our politicians, though. But at local level, they're getting more local than the government running it.
Yeah.
No wonder people were livid.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you see a lady and a gentleman at the store putting stuff back on the shelf because they can't afford a loaf of bread.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Oh man, there's a problem here. So I want to thank everyone for tuning in today. I hope you enjoyed today's podcast. A little bit of rant and rave kind of blended in with the double dipping of the mayor's salaries and all their bonuses and all the extra bonuses.
A lot of numbers. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of stipends just for sitting and going to a meeting. Come on, that's got to be scrapped too. But there needs to be accountability. There needs to be oversight. That needs to be brought in back from the provincial government, and not just a review. There needs to be consequences of make them hold accountable. And let's roll these wages back. How better yet, on top of that, why not go back and retroactive back PWD's income to the way it was back when the inflation started going skyrocket
Yeah.
from way back decades ago.
Or prior to 1994 when everything was a pension.
There used to be a pension.
And then it was guaranteed, yeah.
Pink unicorns were just running wild, and they still are.
Pink unicorns ate my pension. I don't get a pension anymore.
They did. They're hungry. They're right there. I mean, they need to be restored back to pensions, and they need to be a dignified amount, no less than poverty level. They need to be brought up to that level, plus tied to inflation. Yeah. COLA. Who doesn't like COLA? Yeah. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in.
I like root beer better.
Actually, you know what? Root beer float actually one of my favorites.
There you go.
Yeah. Because pink unicorns be just covered all over the top of them. Thanks everyone for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe and share the content. If you like today's content, click the like button down there, and it'll actually take you to a link where you can contribute to the channel if you love the info that we put out. And
throw us a coffee. Yeah.
Throw us a coffee. Yeah. And also on the podcast. I mean, there's so many options to check out on the podcast too. Just for the audio version of it. If you don't have time to watch the video, check it out. It's everywhere.
But who doesn't want to see your pretty face there, Brent?
Or
who doesn't want to see it?
The pink unicorn. Oh, gee, that thing scares me all the time when I see that. Yeah. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Take care.